Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Transformation podcasts. So, when AI is moving so fast, ecosystems are changing rapidly, and startups are being created every day, what does this mean for business transformation and digital marketing? So, today's guest, Wes Towers, will be sharing his experience and expertise with us on this very topic. Wes, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Susie. It's fantastic to be with you today.
It's great to have you on the show, Wes. Wes, you're the CEO of Uplift, a digital marketing agency, but you are constantly having to adapt and adjust as digital and the market changes. So, can you tell us more about your own journey and the pivots you've had to make because the world is changing all the time?
Yeah, well, it is. It's a phenomenal time to be alive, really, in a whole lot of ways. But
Historic.
uh, yeah, so about 3 or 4 years ago, I got a business valuation done, and the business has been going well. It's over 20 years been running, and everything was aligned for a good valuation in
Mm,
terms of what they look for reliability and predictability and consistent growth and all those metrics that they would normally look for,
mm,
recurring income, all that kind of stuff.
mm,
But the valuer put a really low value on the business simply because it was just the time of the rise of AI and people starting to realize it could transform business in a whole lot of ways. And so Uplift 360, we're a digital agency. So we
mm,
make computers and work behind a computer, basically. And the valuer said, well, people don't buy uncertainty. So in a
mm.
business, now it's going to be very difficult to get a good value, get a good price for a business like yours, simply because there's just so much uncertainty in your whole career path. You've done nothing
Wow.
wrong, but just the nature of the industry and what that might mean. So it was
Yeah.
a real wake up call at that time, as you can probably imagine. So it
Yeah.
felt like a real kick in the teeth, but a time for me to really consider what AI might mean for my business and how I
Mm,
could
mm.
make adjustments to make the most of the opportunities and minimize the risks.
Wow. And so, what was that process then, Wes? I mean, I can just imagine as you're describing it, how that hit you.
Yeah,
Like one of those big crossroads, sort of like, oh, okay, I'm going to need to sit down type of moments. Um,
yeah.
so, how did you tackle that pivot?
Well, the initial thing was crying on the floor like a baby. No, not
Yeah,
quite, but
I can
but that's
imagine.
what it felt like. But yeah, once I took stock of what it was, and I realized, hey, there is changes in business in general, and it's not
Mm,
just my business;
mm,
it's every business eventually. And I need to double down on figuring out what this tech means, so we can make the most of it and not be left behind. Because I think if we did stay as we were,
yeah.
we would be at a significant risk. So looked at improving systems, processes, just considered everything and just brought my team in on that conversation as well, where previously everything we'd done had been built around how I would do it.
Yeah.
Because
The typical
but
founder model, no?
what's that, sorry?
The typical founder model.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I started my business and ended up the way it sort of morphed was it was me as a freelancer effectively,
Mm.
but then just delegated aspects of me. So built a
Yeah.
team around that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I realized, hey, there's so much here, and there's
Mm.
people that are smarter around me in my
Mm.
team
Mm.
that might know something that I don't. So really opened up the communications and conversations so that because I've got tech people in my team, obviously we make websites and so on. So
Mm.
they're on the cutting edge of a lot of this stuff. So introduced them into the conversation and they all had a say in that and reworked how we do things to a large degree.
Mm.
I mean, the same outcome is achieved. We still
Mm.
do the same work that we've always done. But the processes have been adapted significantly to improve just based on what's available to us now.
Mm. And was it hard for you, Wes, to let go? I'm putting that in inverted commas. Um, to because I work with a lot of founders, and one of the things they all come up against is this is my baby. This is my
Yeah.
idea, my organization. So what happened there for you?
Well, yeah, you're right. So Yeah, well, it is my baby, absolutely. I mean, as I said, it's been more than 20 years running the business,
Mm,
but I think it was, even if AI didn't happen and things weren't the way
mm,
they were, it was probably time that I introduced greater ideas than what I could come up with
yeah.
just by myself.
Mm, yeah.
I think we were doing just fine, and because we were doing fine, there wasn't a necessity to change.
Mm,
It's kind of
yeah.
I heard a story of an analogy where there's a dog that's sitting on the porch and he's sitting on a nail. You might have heard of this story, but
No.
he remains sitting on the nail because the pain isn't great enough for him to move. He
To
can't
get
be
off.
bothered moving. But as soon as the pain grows to a point in which it's bad enough, he takes action and makes a move. So I was probably sitting on a nail. It was probably things were okay, but I
Mm,
think with the wake up call, it gave
mm,
me the opportunity to rethink everything
mm,
and draw upon other people's ideas were really
mm,
important. So I wouldn't have
mm.
done it probably if I didn't get that rude wake up call from the valuer.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm thankful now in hindsight that it all occurred. We've had our most profitable year ever last financial year. So we report in June for us in Australia,
Okay, brilliant.
um, and a few months ago now. So yeah, and things are still on the up
Mm,
for us. So
mm.
um,
Great. So it was
yeah.
worth getting off the nail.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Now I can't foresee exactly what will happen in the
But
future because
yeah.
it's continuing to evolve. And I
Mm,
mean, anyone doing their work behind a computer desk is their career paths are going to change. There's no
mm,
question with
mm.
that. Even outside of the desk-based jobs,
Of
there's
course.
going to be transformation.
Yeah.
But those that are flexible and adaptable and can think of new ways are
Mm,
going to be the winners. Unfortunately, there's going to be people who don't do very well,
mm,
I believe, in the near future. So
mm, mm.
it's a matter of just staying on top of what you can in your own industry.
Yeah, and I think, getting off the nail because that's when the pain really hits, isn't it? So, getting off the nail, but also you mentioned collective intelligence. So surrounding yourself with people that have competencies that you maybe don't have or are less good at, I think is really important. But also
Yeah,
this idea of reinvention. So constantly questioning your
yeah,
subject matter, what you're doing. And, we were chatting before the show and reflecting on the fact that digital marketing, so its definition, the reality of it, its tools, it's constantly changing. So what does digital marketing mean for you today, Wes? Because I think particularly smaller businesses and entrepreneurs, digital marketing is often a headache and quite a
yeah.
convoluted process. But now that it's changing all the time, it's really hard, I think, to actually look at what it is and what tools are at your disposal.
Yeah, it is, and it's so noisy now. So,
Yeah,
and we're just
yeah, totally.
overwhelmed with information. I
Mm,
mean, yeah. So most of us are on some form of social media,
mm,
and it's just an abundance of information and overwhelm, and
mm,
that's in every angle of marketing. So, it can be difficult to stand out in the marketplace if you're generic. So it really is about being unique and distinct and having a point of view that's different to everybody else. So
mm,
you can truly bring something else to the conversation.
mm.
Um, and I think in a strange way, the artificial intelligence is forcing us to be more human
Yeah,
in a roundabout
yeah,
way. It's a weird thing, but we're all craving that human element, I
mm,
believe. When
mm,
we sense that something's fake,
yeah,
artificial, I mean, there's a kind of an excitement in the videos that we see these days because they're so realistic. But there's this craving for the authentic, I think. So if
mm,
businesses can show up in an authentic way and present and create human connections, I think that's the real goal for any marketing, to
mm,
create a human connection with your clientele, your
mm.
potential clients. So that's what I'm kind of focusing. We've got a fair bit more time because process to get
Yes, of
stuff done
course.
is
Yeah,
easier.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm reinvesting that in on the things that I love to do, and that's talk to people and have
Mm,
conversations like this, and finding out what other people are up to. And this is like a collaboration, so
mm,
it's you and I sharing our information, and
yeah.
hopefully it's useful to somebody, and sharing it to our networks, and
Mm.
um, that human element of collaboration, I think, is really cool.
And do you think that creating deeper client connections is going to provide the competitive advantage in the future as opposed to your logo or your tagline, or will it still be a balance of both for you, Wes?
I think so. For me, I've got a really simple goal, even for my own business, but I encourage
Mm.
our clients to do the same. So the goal is for social media to get people off social media, and where do we want them? In our website.
Websites,
And the
yeah.
goal for the website is to get them off the website and into a human conversation,
Hmm.
because we're typically our clientele, and we are selling a service and something of a higher value. So it's not like an impulse buy where you might just
Mm.
buy something online. It's not
Mm.
that we're providing, and it's our clients are the same. They're typically selling something of high value. So it's always going to be done through a human connection and relationship selling.
Mm.
So everything we do is geared around creating those connections and relationships with the right people.
Mm. And I mean, if I look at digital marketing 10 years ago, we were talking about social media and SEO. And I like your acronym of search everywhere optimization.
Yeah.
But that really spoke to me because SEO was just is a black box, and I understand it a little bit, but the search everywhere optimization is always how I felt about SEO, but I know it can be very powerful. But if I look at, social media, SEO, and some type of brand, and now for me, what I'm seeing is we're veering towards lots of different channels enabled with AI and also more personalized branding. Is that the trend
Yeah.
you're seeing, Wes? And what would your
Yeah.
advice be to businesses who are still in the more traditional way of thinking and way of marketing?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a change in that regard. I think building most founder-led businesses should be a reflection of the founder and
Mm,
their values and convictions, and these things are really important. So, leveraging the advantage you have as a smaller business, a founder-led business is a real opportunity.
mm,
The large companies can't do that because there's just so many pieces
yeah.
of the puzzle, and there's no one individual that represents the brand precisely. So I think those that are using their personal brand in combination with their company brand and reputation, I think that they've got a big
Mm,
advantage in the marketplace. So there's lots of confusion around marketing, and there's the old school ways of doing things that don't work necessarily the same way as
mm,
they
mm,
once did. And an example of that is we used to see a lot of people would give away a free resource of perceived value. So they would give it away, but it wasn't really free because it was in exchange for an email address, typically, or a mobile phone number, but mostly an email address. So it wasn't free. You were parting ways with a part of your privacy. You
mm.
realize that you're giving away some information, which probably means you're going to get a whole bunch of spam.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
realistically, you're meant to be able to unsubscribe, but we all end up on lists that
yes.
for some reason we just can't get off.
Mm,
So we know, and privacy, people value privacy these days more so than ever, with all the security risks and
mm,
so on going around. But the other reason why people are reluctant to do those things is they can get the information they need when they need it through their large language models, through ChatGPT. They don't need your free ebook or resource anymore. They can get that information
mm,
wherever they want it. So
mm.
it's a matter of positioning your brand as the expert in the field in which you play in, for the niche you serve, and having that information published so the large language models can find it and recognize you as the brand and the thought leader
Mm.
for that, so you can get mentioned in all the right places.
And that's really interesting, Wes, as you're talking about that, there has been a shift, hasn't there, in the content creation. So
Yeah.
it's not just about what I'm putting on my website. As you've just said, it's also about how I am running my process on my website. So what do you think is the shift in content creation? I've just heard that we're moving from, I'm going to call them freebies, but they're not freebies, are they? But the hook, the sort of lead magnet into
Lead
something
magnets.
different. What do you think the LLMs and AI have brought to content creation, and how do you see that shifting for websites and branding? I mean, for me, we can see a little bit of this shift on LinkedIn already. These big
Yes.
platforms where people are a little bit lost because it's now sort of in that no man's land. I'd be really interested
Yeah.
in your take on that.
Yeah, well, there's good and bad in most
Mm.
technology that comes about, and certainly there's people who are just it's just leaving tools to do all the heavy lifting in creating the content, and so it might read reasonably well and represent what they do to some degree. It's not adding anything new to the conversation, and therefore it's all it is pulling in a bunch of information from various sources and collating it into
Mm.
something perceived to be new, but not there's no new ideas because it's just borrowed ideas. So there's nothing new to be added. So therefore, the large language models are unlikely to surface it. They're really good at surfacing the best information for the right people searching for, having a
Mm.
conversation or searching for something in particular. So, and they're only going to get better at
Mm.
doing that. So just by publishing lots of content isn't going to do very well. But as soon as you can add something that's genuinely yours, so it might be case studies of projects you've worked on it and only you can, or it might be um, values that only you have as a business and ways in which you work and
Mm.
anything that's uniquely yours, your genuine IP, your intellectual
Mm.
property, they're going to stand out, and the tools will get better and better at finding that genuinely unique information and
Mm.
showing it to the right people at the right time. So it's just shifted gears a little bit in terms of it's the quality, not the quantity. And
Mm.
people are because quantity is easy to produce. People are
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
That yeah, we're going to find that the tools will soon realize that's not of value really.
But I think it's interesting because large language models for me are changing language. So if I look at consultant language, okay,
Yes.
it's out there, it's known, it's always seen as quite fluffy and it can be quite fluffy, etc. Which means that, my personal conviction is that boutique consultancies will outpace the larger firms, the
Yep.
the sort of big five, due to their practical deployable models versus the theoretical models, but also due to their positioning. And
Yeah.
I think large language models are challenging us in terms of our own language, the language we use to describe what we're doing, because you
Yeah.
can quite easily, if I take your thought process, if I use the same language as every other consultant, then it's not
Yeah.
going to pick it up, is it? So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? And how would you advise businesses to make sure that they are picked up by any type of LLM that is scraping the
Yeah.
internet?
Yeah. Well, you touched on a few really important pieces there. So it's really important to get your own voice and language and
Mm,
structure down so everything is consistent. And the tools are great at doing that. So you can once upon a time in marketing, you might have a style guide for your content writing, for example, and
yeah.
that's really helpful if lots of people are working on it and to keep everything
Mm,
consistent. But some of these documents were really in depth and so many pages. So a
mm,
copywriter would read them and go, "Yep, I understand." They get busy with doing the work, the research, and doing the work, and just naturally fall back to their own preferred ways of doing things because
mm.
it's just so hard as a human to remember precisely how you should be
Yes. Yeah.
writing
Yeah. Yeah.
each and every time. But the tools are fantastic at doing that. So just to set up the style guides as a prompt, really, to use in your preferred platform. ChatGPT is the one I typically use. And so using it as a prompt to
Mm,
adjust things to make sure it's consistent with the business and what they want to say. So that's a real plus. But having your own unique language is really powerful, particularly if you get known for it could be a process or a model in which
mm,
you work and you kind of coin the phrase. So if people are searching for that thing,
mm,
it becomes known, then you're obviously the expert because you created it. So
mm,
it's almost like a brand in its own right. It's a
mm,
process, but it's a trademarked or a system, something that's uniquely your IP that you've created a language around. I think
mm,
it's a big plus if you can do that.
mm. And do you see businesses doing that, large businesses today? I mean, I know you're in the construction industry, aren't you? So
Yeah.
if I look at the lessons from the construction industry, do you think they are copy and paste onto other industries, or are we niching so much now with what's going on with AI that we cannot have transversal sort of or transferable trends?
Yeah, well, it is interesting. So some of the it depends on the client and the size and
Mm.
what's important to them. But the good news is you only need to be better than your competitors. And so for construction companies, oftentimes the a lot of them don't do very well in their marketing at all. So it's quite easy
Mm.
for us to get really great traction because we just need to pull a few levers and get some things done properly. And even though it might not be perfect, it's better than what they had,
Mm.
um, and it's moving them in the right direction. Sometimes, I mean, we're encouraging clients to do some things that they don't want to do.
Mm.
So I was just on a call earlier today and I felt as though it would have been really helpful for them to personalize their brand in terms of just even having to humanize their brand. So to
Mm.
have profile, they've got quite a large team of employees. And just to have profiles of the core team members, I
Mm.
felt would have been a really big plus because most of their competitors are nowhere near the scale and size and capacity of what they can do.
Mm.
And but there's no way to understand that. So I was recommending a team page with bios and so on, but they didn't want to do that. So sometimes, and they've got their reasons. So you've just got to work around that and find other ways for them to produce a good outcome. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Some yeah, just different personalities are more comfortable
Mm.
with some things than others. Their main drawback was they didn't want people jumping in and stealing their staff from the website, which I mean, they would be able to find their staff through LinkedIn and other tools if they wanted, if competitors wanted to poach staff. So
Mm.
I appreciate what they were what they were saying, but but yeah, so we work alongside and do our best to fit in with what their
Mm.
intentions are. But I will always be forward in saying what I think is best, and if they don't don't agree, that's fine. We'll do what they
Mm.
want, but I don't. If there's a win that I think we can get them, I'll always present it, even though I know sometimes that's probably not what they want to do. So
Mm. Because if I look at the trend around influencers, social media, people who are on social media 24/7, how can businesses compete with that, Wes? Because it's a
yeah,
very, for me,
yeah,
it's the shift in value propositions and how you display those value propositions and how you put them to your audience.
yeah. Yeah, there are people who just publish masses of amounts of information, and some of it. So some of the theory behind that is, well, if you're thinking about social media, for example, the not everything you publish will show up to very many
Mm.
people at all, but occasionally you'll get a win, and it's really hard to predict sometimes what might go viral,
Mm.
as some people might call it. So they just put more
Mm.
stuff out there, and eventually something catches. So it sort of makes sense, but it's really difficult for a small team to do that at the same capacity and scale.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so it is really difficult, but I think for smaller businesses, if you can really dial into a specific niche, and that's what we've
Hmm.
done. We work for trades and construction businesses for the most part, and it just is becomes easier because you're all of a sudden marketing to a very specific type of person
Mm.
and client, and so your message can be really really dialed in for that exact thing, and you get better and better at learning who they are and what they need and what produces a great outcome for those
Mm.
types of business. There's always
Mm.
difference in every business, but you get some quick runs on the board because you've done it so many times before.
Mm. And it also means that you don't have to be on every single platform.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
that yeah,
I'm interested in your opinion on platforms and where
yeah.
people should be, where they need to be, versus where they think they should be. Because I think everybody
Yeah,
goes into business, whether you're part of a business or you're running a business, with an understanding of what visibility means in terms of branding and where you should be.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Wes?
Yeah, well, I think what you should do, and this is what we always encourage clients to think about, is focus on the couple of platforms. If it's social media, think
Mm,
about the platforms that are most likely that your ideal clients are hanging out in. So if it's business to business, B2B, then it's likely to be LinkedIn. And so
mm,
that for me, all our customers are business to business. So LinkedIn is a priority where other demographics and target markets might be TikTok, which is probably
mm,
the extreme opposite, where it's typically a much younger crowd, and it might be more your you know uh, retail type scenario. It could be
mm,
anything, but it's just thinking about those couple of platforms that are best aligned
mm,
to what you're offering, and then focus your attention on those. But you can use tools to syndicate the same message out to the other platforms fairly fast. So you're not investing too much time on it. You're publishing on them, but you're not gearing everything around them because it's
mm,
a low potential yield
mm,
um, to do that. So yeah, that's what I do with even our own business. I don't do the posting myself, but the strategy is to focus on LinkedIn for the most part,
mm,
and the same information goes elsewhere. And we know not many people who are going to necessarily engage with it, but
mm,
that's fine. It's something
mm,
there.
mm,
It's better than nothing, but we
mm,
haven't wasted a lot of hours on it.
mm. And if I come back to authenticity and personal branding,
Yeah,
AI tools, DIY websites, things like that, they don't replace the need for a strong personal story, do they? So
yeah,
what do you think about personal stories and using them to brand ourselves and our businesses? So, how
yeah,
would you advise people to do that? Which tools?
yeah. Well, it is. You're right. That storytelling has been part of
Mm,
every culture in
it's
human
what makes
history,
us
as
human.
far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just what we do.
Mm,
Every culture has done it. So it's just how we learn and understand things and what we appreciate. So finding a story that isn't boring or bland and connects with your audience is
mm,
really important. Um, so yeah, every business has a story, and it could be values led. How a business was formed and why the
mm,
reason why they do what they do. The passion can be helpful. If you haven't really got a story around those lines, like a small business might be a family
mm,
business, and it's really helpful. We work with a lot of trades and construction businesses who are quite small, um, and some of it. So typically, it might be a couple that own the business, and one of the partners might be reluctant to be on that
mm.
website, as a profile because they're more behind the scenes. But it's kind of a massive opportunity lost because if you think about a construction business, for example, and if they're building homes, and I know I'm generalizing, but if it's the lady who's more behind the scenes and doesn't want to be on the website, well, in those instances, oftentimes it's the lady who's making a lot of the decisions regarding the home and
Mm,
the styling and so on. So we'll naturally connect with people that look sort of and sound kind of like us. We will relate naturally to
of course.
certain types of people. So it's just human nature. So that can be part of the story too. The family business, the couple who are running it. There's no harm in even having picture of the whole family if you've got kids. Obviously, there might be other concerns around that, but
Mm,
if they're older children, that it's a safe thing to do to have the whole family. It tells us something about the people involved that
mm,
they're able to have a family. They're probably reasonable people. They're probably people just like us.
mm,
Um, those sorts of that sort of storytelling in imagery can be
mm,
really helpful too.
mm. And if I go back to the idea of more traditional models shifting quite quickly, and I look at
Yeah,
websites, okay? So I've had my
yeah,
business for 7 years, and the models have moved on loads in 7 years. So what I understood then is helpful but not useful now, okay?
yeah.
Some of it's useful, that's a little bit unfair, but it's shifted quite a lot. So what would you be expecting to see on a website today, Wes? How can you share your thought process with us around what would what would you be looking for?
Yeah, so well, a high performing website is usually simple. So
Mm,
the main priority is always going to be the message, but you can design the website in a way in which the message, you guide the eye through the
mm,
core message. So it's easy for people just to grasp it really quickly because we're all super rushed and we know there's hundreds of other websites that are
yeah,
probably,
yeah,
facilitating the same need. So people need to see it, grasp what it is, know how to interact with it because we all learn how to navigate a website as well. So we
mm.
expect things to be in certain places, the user experience that we've all learned to
Yeah, that was
understand.
my point, whether that's shifted or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, well, it does shift. And things change as we learn and evolve. I mean, another site I was talking to some people about, so the menu, so the items
Mm,
that typically run across the top. Uh, then there's what's called the hamburger menu. It's those three lines that
mm,
typically you'll see on a mobile device. Now, years ago, when that hamburger menu was kind of new, not everyone knew how to use it. So people would not even realize you could click on it and find a whole
mm,
menu. But these days, because we've all seen that a bunch of times before now, because we've seen it on our mobile phones, the cell phone. So we know what it is now. So that user experience does change as we start to learn what things are. I mean, it's 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 appealing to some people to be on the cutting edge and have a user experience that's quite unique and different and those sorts of things, but it makes it more difficult for the end user to navigate. And realistically, if it's a marketing tool to communicate a message about what you do and for people to take action, you don't want to confuse them with anything that they don't understand. So
mm,
if things look like they're clickable, well, it should be clickable that it takes you somewhere. Sometimes, things are designed in a certain way that looks like you should click on it and it does nothing.
mm,
That's can create real confusion. So just little simple things like that. I mean, it feels so simple to me because I'm doing it every day, but I'm
mm,
sure if it's not in your wheelhouse and it's not something you do, then it's something you kind of need a little bit of guidance on. Things
mm,
that I might see right away that are not
mm,
quite right in a
mm,
website. It's other people probably don't see it
mm,
quite the same way.
mm. And what trends are you seeing, Wes, as AI and LLMs become more and more commonplace? Let's put it that way. If I
Yeah,
move us out to 2030, what's your
yeah.
vision for digital marketing?
Well, it will be interesting, certainly for the technical way
Mm,
in which you build a website. So there's what's called vibe coding, which is
mm,
you just
mm,
speak or you write words and it builds the thing for you. Now, it's probably not at the level in which it can do a design up to the standard in which we would be
mm,
happy to present right now. They all kind of look the same. They function reasonably well, and the for a really simple app, they might be suitable. But for a website that's meant to represent a business, it's not there yet. But
mm,
that time frame you gave, I can see that it probably will eventually be so dynamic and flexible to do exactly what you want it to design. Just like briefing a web designer like us, it
mm,
probably the tool will do it. That's presents a challenge for a business like mine. I just need to lift my game and
mm.
bring another level of value,
Yeah.
which is what we're focusing on. So, uh, bringing expertise in our niche and knowing what works and guiding people along that path will probably be the way the business evolves. So more of a consulting process, I would
Mm,
say. Once
mm,
the technology takes part of the tech piece, well, then that's the way in which I can bring new value.
mm. Yeah, moving from content to process consulting type of thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to think about it. I think that's still going to be the truth of a lot of careers. If you can
Mm,
find a niche that you consult in and have expert knowledge in the area in which you work, I
mm,
think that's going to future-proof your business to a
mm,
large degree.
mm. And if I look at the current situation, geopolitically, financially, economically, um, it's hard at the moment, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
what would you be advising for sort of key digital marketing steps that small businesses can take during these harder times where they need more visibility, they need to
Yeah,
start
yeah.
prospecting more for clients? Do you have advice on what they could do from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, the content production, there's a bunch of prompts actually on my website. They're free and you don't have to give your email address. They're just published.
Okay, I'll put
Like
I'll
I
put the
said
link in the
before.
show notes.
Yeah, yeah. So people
Yeah.
can jump on there and
Okay.
there's a whole bunch of really sophisticated prompts that will help you to produce marketing based content. So obviously you give it the guidance and fill in the blanks, and
Of
it'll
course.
it'll help
Mm,
guide you through that process. So that's one piece of the puzzle you can do yourself, and you will need ChatGPT, and I would highly or something similar. I would strongly advise people just to pay the $20 or whatever it is for the paid version. It's just so much better. It's
mm,
worth the $20. I'm not sure what it is. It might be
mm.
$30. Um, so yeah, that's one thing, the content creation in terms of the text. So you've really got to think about exactly your unique position in the world, and that will help you do that. In terms of building web, like I still feel as though you need a website, and some people are saying you you don't because all the information is
Ah,
garnered
wow.
through other
Okay.
means. Yeah,
I
but
hadn't
the
heard
thing to
about
think
that.
about is, yeah, but the all that information that, say, for example, everyone's just using their preferred large language model to do their research and make decisions and so on. All that is pulling information from websites. So realistically, you should have a company website so you can build authority. Even in the eyes of the large language models, they can see your website and realize, hey, this is an established business that's been around a while because it's had a website for a while, and they'll
Mm,
make some at least rudimentary, basic,
mm.
judgment calls based
Assumptions.
on what they can see. Yeah.
But
So publish, yeah, but anyone selling something more than an impulse buy,
mm,
really people are going to check out your website to ensure that you are who you say you are, you're reputable, you've got some runs on the board in terms of you know what you're doing, and you probably and another thing that's really important in our world is that they know that the business is reliable, that they're going to be here in 12 months' time,
yeah, yeah.
because we had obviously working with construction businesses, we've
Yeah.
had heaps go under, and you can imagine the horror that is for people building a home, for example. So you might be
Yeah.
halfway through your dream home, your family home, and then the builder's gone. And so
Mm,
you've spent a whole bunch of money, and they've probably cut corners on wherever it's at because things were really tight. And to get another builder in to fix it and finish it, it's
mm,
really stressful. So marketing in a way that builds trust and
mm,
reputation so people can know that you're reliable
mm,
are really important these
mm.
days. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a challenging world right now for a lot
Yeah,
of people. So
totally.
yeah, we've got to market ourselves in a way that builds that trust and authority
Mm.
and reputation.
And you're basically proving that there's a human behind it, aren't you? As well,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
human connection.
yeah,
Which
100%.
which brings me to the idea of KPIs. I mean, do you think so the traditional KPIs of how many visits to the website, et cetera, are they still relevant? I'm hearing that the number of visits to a website may still be relevant, and that is what LLMs are going to go and look for. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so everyone's getting less traffic, and
Mm,
what we've found, I mean, we've only got the pool of clients we're working
of
with, but
course.
what we've seen in our own clients is there's less traffic to all of them, but there's not less inquiries, and you might measure the inquiries by how many times the form is filled in.
Okay.
The client can also measure how many phone calls they're getting as well. So
Mm,
there's not less inquiries by any means for any of our clients, but there certainly is a lot less traffic. So
mm,
what that sort of indicates to us is when people are researching, they're not necessarily needing to read a website anymore,
okay.
but they are when they're ready to buy something of a high dollar value, they're visiting the website and making an inquiry. So it's closer to that end sales decision that they come to a website now. So it's really got to be on point because that's the time in which they're ready to part way with some money and buy something.
Yeah, so we're moving from more quantitative to qualitative KPIs. Well,
Yeah,
KPIs,
I think so.
measurements, let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, KP, yeah. It's been challenging in our world doing SEO.
Yeah.
We've done SEO for clients for a lot of years, some of them,
Mm,
And so all of a sudden they saw the traffic going the opposite way. I mean, it's a tool
Yeah.
totally out of our control, but to have to explain to them what was happening and walk them through that journey. We didn't lose anyone, but obviously had that conversation when people were ringing or emailing saying, "Hey, what's going on? Why
Yeah.
every month you've got us more traffic? Now all of a sudden we're getting less." So having those conversations has been important.
Yeah, it's changing changes in user behavior, isn't it? Which sort of changes, it's
Yeah,
counterintuitive to how we were measuring things before.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It was
Yeah.
so easy to measure before, so it felt so linear, but
Yeah.
now it's all changing the way in which
Yeah.
we work online.
And of course, the world is not linear, is it? But we like to believe it was for quite some time.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Wes, time is running, but what would you have a final recommendation for people listening, thinking, okay, I'm either part of a business or I run my own business, and I need to start thinking about my branding in this
Yeah,
digital age. What would your first steps be?
yeah. Well, I suppose it's a good time of year actually to start thinking about it because it's more of a holistic. Your brand is more of a holistic thing because it
Mm,
influences just so much in your business and kind of as you're wrapping up a year and coming into a new one, it's a good time to reflect on what's been and
yeah.
what's coming. But just think about your uniqueness and the conversation I often have with clients is to get them to vent. It's almost like a venting session. So potential clients come on board and just get them to complain about everything that's wrong with their industry. These things seem to
Oh,
bubble up
nice.
and surface once they have permission to
Mm,
complain. It's like a cathartic experience. But what we see in that is that it's a dump of all the things that they don't like, but we can see the opposite and the opposite, the positive side of that. It's like the shadow and the light. So you reveal the
mm,
shadows so you can make the light stand out so much more. And then we come at it from a positive angle, talking about it from the opposite and the positive angle. So that's a fun way of looking at it. People, it's just human nature. People
mm.
enjoy a time to vent and complain.
Yeah.
So yeah, you draw out some wonderful ideas. It's
Mm,
something you would never share publicly because it's
yeah.
you don't want to talk in a negative frame, but doing that behind closed doors is a really cool thing to do. I think to find what makes you unique in the
Mm.
marketplace.
I think it's also very satisfying, isn't it, to be able to just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
get rid of it all.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm gonna leave our listeners with that idea of starting with what you don't like and what you're not doing, and then
yeah. True.
putting the jewels out of that.
Yeah, yeah. And so obviously I mentioned the resources on the website, so people can jump on and get those as well and
Mm,
kick off the kick off the new year with a bang.
yeah, excellent. So I'm going to leave that with our listeners as their New Year reflection. Where can they find all these resources and find out more about you?
Yeah, uplift360.com.au, being an Australian business.
Yeah.
You can actually book a strategy call with me there on the homepage, big button. I'm happy to chat with anybody, potentially about some of the things we might have covered today.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your stories and your insight, your experience, and thanks for a great conversation.
Thanks, Susie. It's been my privilege.
Thank you.